it a few minutes. Let's see who joins. Started pretty much on time today. Maybe a couple minutes late, but that's okay. So let's see who joins. We're here to chat about Freemasonry. I had a really fun stream last night. I really enjoyed it. With my good friend and brother, worshipful brother Igor Strukin, one of the best people I know, a really, really great guy, genuinely one of the best. And we talked about the Knights. We reviewed a show on Netflix, Freemasonry and the Knights Templar. By the way, I put that video to private because I just have to edit something, edit a couple snafus on my end, but it should be back up soon enough. But in the meantime, let's see who joins us today. I also had a great time yesterday at Ridgeview Park in Cottam. It was a blast. We I had to, as a referee, demonstrate a little bit of lay down the law, if you will, on some people who were being challenging. But yeah, we will talk about that soon enough. Or I suppose what I should say is I'm going to actually spend today talking a little bit about Freemasonry and professional wrestling, why I think Freemasons have responsibility to, or not responsibility, that's not the right term. Why I think Freemasons have responsibility to take from a variety of different professions. I think any ideas, philosophies, practices that can benefit Freemasonry that exist within any profession or any group, Freemasonry has a responsibility to try and adapt to its needs. I think there's a couple interesting practices and philosophies within professional wrestling that can apply to Freemasonry. Not so much kayfabe or anything like that, which I think a lot of people may go with when they think of professional wrestling. Rather, some other ideas, and I've talked about that in a podcast in the past, but which I will talk about here again once we get more people joining. But the first hour is just me hanging out, waiting to see who joins. So let's wait and see who joins. And we have my dad joining. How's it going? It was fun seeing you yesterday on the stream. I hope that you're doing well. How is your day treating you so far? And to everybody else who's joining, for now, this first hour, we're just here to chat about Freemasonry before I talk about my specific topics. So anything you want to talk about when it comes to Freemasonry, any thoughts you have, positive, negative, or neutral, I'd love to hear it. If you're not a fan of Freemasonry, that's okay too. Just let me know. What it is that you're not a fan of, and I'll see if I can respond. I've been a Freemason since 2007. Certainly, I don't know everything, but I like to think I know a fair bit. And my dad is on, so again, I hope that you are doing well. I can't, Aloysius. Here / there, it is 1 o'clock, 1:10 Eastern Standard Time. I'm rocking out the Eastern Standard Time. By the way, whenever I'm announcing anything on this channel in terms of times, it's always going to be Eastern Standard Time. So keep that in mind when you're considering your time zone. That's something else I'm going to talk about today. Is going to be time zones, or not time zones, but special events I have coming up and the times they will be taking place. There's something happening Friday, something happening Saturday, and something happening Sunday all this week. So I'm from Canada, born and raised and proud of it. I love Canada, greatest country in the world. It's where all the most handsome people are from. What about you, Kay? Where are you from? Oh, I thought it was last week. Oh, that's right, you had to cancel it. I'm sure you're going to rock out the memory work, Dad. I have no doubt, and I'm proud of you. You're going to kill it, I'm sure. I am from India. Okay, we got a lot of people from India joining my stream, which is always wonderful. I hope KI, you'll hit the like button and subscribe button, and let me know if you have any thoughts on Freemasonry or anything else you want to talk about. The first hour, like I said, it's us just chatting and hanging out and talking about whatever. The second hour is when we get into the more specific topics. But as always, this first hour is just us hanging out and chatting. And that happens, right? That happens. Things get canceled due to sickness, things get canceled due to sometimes it's the candidates themselves who get sick, sometimes they have family members who get sick. Um, Either way, it happens. So you just have to pivot and adapt, which it sounds like your lodge absolutely did, which is a wonderful thing. And I'm sure you're going to do a great job. Fellowcraft degree has always been my favorite degree, so. But this first hour, as always, we just wait to see who joins and who wants to chat before I start on the specific topics. So we'll give it a bit of time and we'll see who joins. And if you are new to the stream, I hope you'll hit the like and subscribe button. If you are, um, a regular long-time watcher or a viewer, then it's great to have you back. I mean, well, Toastmasters, but I don't know if Toastmasters you have to memorize your speeches or if you're allowed to read from notes. I think the memory work aspect of Freemasonry is somewhat unique. I mean, school is another one where you're expected to memorize things, obviously. But I mean, I think when people talk about Freemasonry, they'll often say the ritual is what makes it unique, and that's some true. That's somewhat true, but in my opinion, it's not exclusively the ritual, it's the fact that we have to memorize the ritual, which I think is somewhat unique. Um, we're just giving it a bit of time. We're going to see who joins. It was a great stream yesterday. I really enjoyed it. It was wonderful having my good friend Igor on the stream, on the chat. He's great Mason and a great fella, and it was fun hanging out with him, watching a movie on Tubi. I know my dad said he found it. I don't know if he's going to watch the rest of the episodes or if he's going to watch, if he's going to watch something else. But I don't know when I'll have him back on, but I'm sure I'll have him back on again, and we'll talk about it. It'll be fun. We'll talk about whether we watch the same movie or same show a second time or whether we watch a different show. I will have to see. Well, I mean, I don't. BIU, BIU. I have no idea what Taiwan can help means. But I'm sure they can. I mean, if the Taiwanese want to give me any help, I'd appreciate it. You can support me through Patreon. BIU, please hit the like and subscribe button. Sanjeet, hello. I hope you're doing well. I also hope you'll hit that like and subscribe button and let me know how you're doing, how your day is going, if there's anything you want to talk about when it comes to Freemasonry, any thoughts you have, positive, negative, or neutral. Day is good. I'm happy to hear you're having a positive day. If there's anything that's making it positive, let me know. Or just if you want to let me know why your day's positive. Otherwise, it's good you're having a positive day. I guess if you have any questions or thoughts on Freemasonry, please let me know. And please hit that like and subscribe button if you're not subscribed. Oh, all right. There you go. Collar is now straight. I can't be expected to have a nice collar. What do you want from me? The fact that I'm even wearing a shirt without stains on it should be enough to make you people happy. Hard work does make the day positive. Hard work is a very good thing. To anybody out there, if you are working hard, believe me, sooner or later, sometimes later, sometimes sooner, sooner or later, um, you will reap some of the benefits of that hard work. Every builder knows the harder you work in building something, uh, sometimes it feels like you're not making progress, but believe me, over time, you will make progress. It's the old 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of thing, right? Sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 1.75 steps back. But it's still, hard work is still important. That's true. If dad says put your collar straight, then you have to put your collar straight. Like I said, we're going to give it a bit of time. We're going to see who else joins, and then we're going to start talking about today's subject. Because I had a wrestling show last night, I'm still feeling it a little bit today. I posted some clips on my personal YouTube, or my, yeah, excuse me, posted some clips on my personal YouTube channel and my personal social media. You can see the clips of me laying down the law as a referee. It goes well, Black Raven Black Raven meditation. How goes it with you? How's life treating you? I have seen. What's the last thing I saw? You are popping up on my algorithm. I'm curious now. I'm trying to remember the last thing I saw. I'm looking it up now. If you go onto my Facebook, you should see it. You should see the clip, or at least a clip. Let me see. I think it was, I just found it here. Concentration, a view on building the infrastructure towards esoteric meditation. Looks like it was 9 days ago is when I saw it. So, or at least it came out 9 days ago. I don't remember when I saw it. Just because something comes out whenever it came out doesn't mean you see it right away. There are some of my videos from a couple years ago that I've shown up on my stream. So, but yeah, keep up the good work. What is up, Mr. Keeps? Doing well. Thank you for joining us yesterday. It was really fun to have you there. Like I said, you got your York Rite Mason on the stream, so That should be really cool. And he'll be back. He's done some other stuff with me. Whenever it's me and Igor, or Igor and I, it's usually we're watching some type of pop culture feature about Freemasonry. I try to make sure it's something that's easily accessible, like something on Tubi, um, um, where it's free and everybody can access it. Letice Alves de Silva, what is your favorite? Well, I don't know about American holiday per se. He has been on, and on the past. If you type in Freemason pop culture, you should see my previous episodes with him. They're on there. My favorite American holiday. Um, well, I mean, I don't know about specifically American, because specifically American would be like Fourth of July, right, or Memorial Day or something. I can say my favorite holiday in general. For years and years, it was Halloween. Um, and I still love Halloween. I still love anything spooky and scary, and I love the fall. And so Halloween is up there, even though I guess that's not a holiday technically, but an important day nonetheless for me. But lately, to a greater and greater degree, it's been Christmas um, that I've been really enjoying. So Christmas, I think as you get older, Christmas becomes more and more important to you, and other holidays less so. So Christmas is up there. I'd say right now it's Christmas, and then a very close second, Halloween. Uh, and then I also do really enjoy the 4th of July, though, because here in Canada, we have July 1st is Canada Day, July 4th is the American holiday. And so a lot of times I would do a thing where I would have the first off anyways. I would take July 4th off in Canada, and I would make like basically a 4-day weekend and travel to Chicago to celebrate. I would be here to celebrate Canada Day, then go to Chicago to celebrate July 4th. And usually there was like a barbecue. Um, there was a barbecue at a brother's house to celebrate July 4th. So I'd end up there. I think I still have, because I don't smoke cigars, but somewhere around here, I remember a brother gave me a cigar on the 4th of July, and I just kept it as a souvenir. So, on the 4th of July, yeah. Oh, sorry you're sick as a dog, Mr. Keeps. Tea with honey and lemon was always a standard remedy. And of course, if you're feeling too ill, make sure you go to your doctor. But otherwise, drink lots of water, rest, recover. I hope you feel better soon. Hello, Chris. It's good to have you join. I hope that you're doing well. Thank you for being here. We are friends, cyber friends or otherwise. Everybody on this stream, well, at least the people who are regularly here on this stream, I can consider you a friend. And if you're new to the stream and I don't know you yet, then hopefully we can become friends. Oh, so you really must be sick. Well, I hope somebody can pick some up for you. Somebody head down to the corner store. Maybe Mr. Keep's wife, get yourself some lozenges and neocitrin. I used to really like, there was this, like it was like lemon flavored medicine. Basically, it was in powdered form. You put it in hot water. It formed like a tea that you would drink. I forget what it was called, but I used to really like that. I thought it tasted really good. Well, I mean, it still had I wouldn't drink it if I wasn't sick because it still had the medicinal taste. But for medicine, I thought it tasted pretty good. And you could add honey to it to kind of take the edge off that medicinal taste. I've talked a million times. I don't think I have to talk anymore about, at least not in this stream, about Freemasonry and its health benefits. It's not going to keep you from getting, it's not going to keep you from getting sick or getting the cold or the flu, but it will potentially help you recover quickly or help you recover from certain, from hospitalizations if you have visitors, if you have Masonic brothers to visit you, and the health effects of being lonely can be greater than the health effects of smoking and drinking. But Mr. Keeps, I hope you get your lozenges. I hope you get your neocitrin, and I hope that you feel better. Fingers crossed, it's one of those 24-hour 24-hour flus or colds, and doesn't stick with you too long. I have the 24-hour stream in mind because it is coming up September 21st, goes from the 21st to the 22nd, 2 p.m. to 2 p.m. We're going to talk about Masonic history. I'm not an expert, but I am at least conversant in it. So there is that. And then every couple hours during that stream, I'm going to be giving away a free Tier 1 Patreon membership. So we'll be entering into draws. Anybody who's watching could be entered into a draw to win. And I'll tell you kind of how that will work during the stream itself. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Good. Well, at least you're on the right track then, right? The fact that it's better, the fact that you're better today than you were yesterday. Hopefully, you will be better tomorrow than you are today, and hopefully, by the day after that, you'll be back to 100% or thereabouts. Right? I think that I'm going to keep my fingers crossed for you, and I'm sure if anybody wants to jump in this stream and give some hearts for Mr. Keeps as he's battling his cold. He said the stream I did with Igor, Freemasonry Pop Culture, will be back on. It'll be switched back to public shortly. I just have to edit a couple of things. Some of it was my mistakes, or my mistakes with the editing and my phone and stuff. So we'll see. I was just in Brazil, Leticia. I was just in Brazil about 2 months ago. It's crazy how time has flown. I wish I could be back there. It was a beautiful city. I was in Rio. I mean, Brazil's a beautiful country. Well, here's what I'll say, because I guess I wasn't in all of Brazil. I'm told Brazil is a beautiful country. I saw Rio de Janeiro up close and found Rio de Janeiro absolutely beautiful. As a city, and the people were beautiful as well, and the people were super kind, and I had an absolute blast being there. And the Masons were awesome there as well. The best, oh my gosh, that is expensive, $180. I've said it before, the best meal I ever had at a Masonic function was in Brazil. The food was absolutely incredible. But I mean, we've talked a lot about languages, Leticia, on this stream in the past, actually, in communication. It doesn't shock me, the idea that because English has kind of become I guess the lingua, I think the term is lingua franca. I could be getting that wrong. It's become the general term of business, it's one of those languages where it seems like if you want to be successful in business on a global scale, if you want to be successful in pop culture or entertainment on a global scale, if you want to be successful in terms of any type of travel on a global scale, you kind of need English. I mean, it does, it is kind of in some ways a shame, but I've traveled literally around the world. I've been lucky to do so. I was able to get by in Mexico. I was able to get by in the Philippines. I was able to get by in Dubai, and I was able to get by in Brazil, speaking exclusively English and not knowing any of the native languages where I was. However, because everybody in the airlines that I was traveling, everybody in the hotels where I was traveling, and everybody kind of, like, even in the hospitals. At one point, I got when I was in Mexico, I got an ear infection, and I had to go to a hospital, and the doctor spoke English. Didn't speak great English, but spoke pretty good English, right? Because where I was a very touristy area, and they had a lot of Americans and Canadians visiting there frequently. I don't know if it would be the same if I spoke a different language. Having said that, it does concern me a little bit. I think diversity in languages, both on a global scale and a community scale, is really, really important. Um, I think that matters a lot from a Masonic perspective, and not just Masonic perspective. I think just a global perspective. I would hate to see. I think diversity of languages helps people, especially if you speak more than one language. And again, I don't, but I guess that makes me a hypocrite. But I'd like to learn. Helps people understand concepts in a metaphorical sense really well. I once heard this YouTuber who I actually don't like or agree with almost anything he says, except for he brought up a really good point, which he said, when you know, and this has been my experience with people who are multilingual, they're able to understand things in a metaphorical sense better. Their mind thinks in metaphors more, because when you know more than one language, you kind of understand concepts in a way that's different, in my opinion. So yeah, so I think that's why in Brazil you probably learn English first. Having said that, I hope we never lose the Portuguese language. I hope we never lose the French language, or any of these other languages, even First Nations languages, which in Canada are, I think, for many years they were on the brink of going extinct, or becoming dead languages, kind of like Latin. But a lot of people have put a lot of work into trying to keep them alive. Well, then you're smarter than I am, Mr. Keeps, because I know English and bad English. I used to know a little bit of French, like a very little bit of French, but that has kind of been lost because I've been so focused on other things. One of the ways, um, yeah, and Mr. Keeps, like when he says above content, that's another thing. If you want to be involved in entertainment, you kind of have to be able to speak English if you want to be successful outside of maybe your mother country. At least successful enough to be able to get by, and produce content. It's funny. One way I used to try to learn French, and I did pick up a little bit of French on this, was I have a whole bunch of DVDs, and what I would do is I would watch my favorite movies, but I'd watch them with the French dubbing instead of the English dubbing, or instead of the English language, I'd watch them in French, or I'd watch them in French, to try to pick up French that way, which worked okay. Although my favorite movies are scary movies, so mostly I just learned how to scream in French. Okay, well, I'm glad that Portuguese isn't lost. Obviously, I would hate it if that were the case, but it does make sense to me that English would be taught. It's also, I mean, I don't know how old you are, Mr. Keeps, or how old your wife is. I'm not saying your wife is old, but I'm saying there's been lots of studies that show the older you get, like kids have the easiest time picking up multiple languages. Um, or kids have the easiest time picking up multiple languages, whereas the older you get, certainly by the time you're over your 20s or 30s, it gets harder and harder to pick up multiple languages. Which makes sense because kids, their brains are naturally designed to learn language. That's what I mean, you could argue the first couple years, all they're doing aside from eating and drinking, or eating and pooping, is listening and picking up the language that's being spoken around them. So yeah, so I mean, I'm a little bit older, but still, it's supposedly it's harder to pick up a new language the older you get, which I would believe. But 36 and 38, you're both still young at heart, so that's what matters. That's what matters. Just stay young at heart. I'm sure you don't feel young at heart today when you're ill. That tends to age you mentally and physically while you're sick, but you'll get over it. As Dad says, no, any should do. The more toddies, the better you will sleep. Well, that's true, but don't drink too many toddies because you also don't want to dehydrate yourself. That's also, I do wonder about age and memorization. It seems that there's also some truth that the older you get, the harder it is for people to memorize things. But I think memorization is more of a muscle where it's possible to, if you start Freemasonry when you're younger and you're constantly memorizing stuff, it's easier to, it's easier to, um, what's the word I'd look for? It's easier to keep that muscle going and to keep memorizing the older you get. Yes, get yourself water. Well, toddies are, I think you said what is above. I don't even know what it is. Isn't it coffee and whiskey or coffee and rum or coffee and alcohol of some sort? Okay, Scotch whiskey with hot water. I thought it was coffee with hot water. But even water and Scotch, I think will still dehydrate you because I think the Scotch will do more damage than the water will help. Just the key is always do just take care of yourself so you can take care of those around you, right? It's like I always talk about with Freemasonry. The reason Freemasons should be healthy and try to live healthy lives is not for themselves, although it's a good thing for yourself. It's so that you have the energy, the abilities to engage with Freemasonry in a positive way and to build the world around you. As always, we're going to wait an hour into the stream. So 30 minutes from now, we'll start on the main topic, which is going to be professional wrestling and Freemasonry. Not so much professional wrestlers who've been Freemasons. I know a couple, including actually Harley Race, maybe the most famous. However, I'm also going to talk about was I lost my train of thought there. I'm going to talk about ways in which I think Freemasonry can learn or ideas from professional wrestling. I believe Freemasonry can use, especially newer Masons. I'm not talking about kayfabe or anything like that. I'm talking about more practical. Well, I guess kayfabe is practical in Freemasonry term, or in professional wrestling terms, but in Freemasonry, there are some things that wrestlers have to be aware of, have to focus on, have to think about that I believe can actually that is applicable to Freemasonry. Well, you'd need to pick up more, some lozenges and medications, anyways. So maybe um, on your way, you can stop at the liquor store as well. BIU. I mean, America's great. I love America. It's a wonderful country. I don't have anything against China, by the way, or any other country. I think America is awesome, though. I have a lot of friends and brothers in America. I have a lot of brothers in China, Hong Kong, and Macau, as well as potentially some mainland China, though those are more underground. But I think America's great. Like I said, I've said a million times, Canada is the greatest country in the world, which I believe to be the case. But one of the reasons Canada is the greatest country in the world, in my opinion, is because we have the greatest neighbors in the world. I have a TikTok account and I've used it 3 times and did not enjoy it, did not get it, didn't understand it. I still don't think I understand exactly how it works. Maybe if there was like there was a brother on TikTok, brother Fluff, who's a great guy. worshipful master, actually. But yeah, I'm not a big TikTok guy. I don't really understand it. Um, so no kayfabe, but we'll talk about other things you may not realize that actually are Masonic in their nature. Um, I've never used TikTok either. R.I.P. Charlie Kirk. Yes, well, I mean, if you're the regular viewer, you'll know that actually the Charlie Kirk um, murder, assassination, pick your term, occurred while I was live streaming, and I did mention it on the stream, and he did has come up on the stream a few times since. But yet, obviously, as I said before, to anybody who was a fan of his, certainly to his family, who deserve to have their husband, deserve to have their father, deserve to have their son, I don't know if you had siblings, deserve to have their brothers, whatever it might be. Our thoughts and condolences. But I'm not anti TikTok. I'm not pro TikTok. It's just a matter of I don't know much about it. I've always been hesitant to become too engaged on it or with it because I'm always worried that it's going to get banned or shadow banned or whatever it might be by the government. I but having said that, some of my favorite content creators actually got their start on TikTok and then either moved over to YouTube or start on TikTok, continue on TikTok, but add content on YouTube. Like old school Kevmo, um, who's he's a cook. I've actually talked about him on this stream several times. He, to my knowledge, got his start on TikTok, as did Brother Fluff. So it can be a valuable tool for a lot of people. We're going to give it another 20, I guess 3 minutes or thereabouts. I'm not too precise with this. And we'll talk about Freemasonry and pro wrestling. The ways I think that we in Freemasonry can benefit from some ideas within pro wrestling. I say this as someone who trained in professional wrestling since 20, I guess it would be 2016, 2017, which is insane to think it's been that long. I cannot believe how fast time has flied. It's funny, when I was growing up, I used to always wish time would go faster. I used to always say to my mom, especially, right, I can't wait to grow up. I can't wait to get older. I can't wait to not be a kid. I can't wait to move out. Um, Whatever it might be. And my mom used to always say, "Don't wish your life away." I heard the advice she'd always give me. And she's passed away now, but she was right, as parents often are, though you don't realize it at the time. Um, Once you start to get a little bit older, you realize time absolutely zooms by way, way too quickly. Um, Way too quickly for my liking. It's always having trouble. That's why I've always kind of avoided TikTok because um, it feels as though there's always some type of issue with it. Either the U.S. government doesn't like it, or there's some type of corporate whatever. So I've always kind of avoided it, and it's funny because I'm always arguing. Um, that we as Freemasons need to have a presence on all the different platforms and social media platforms that are out there, whether those platforms be, um, whether those platforms be video platforms like YouTube, TikTok, um, whether it be written platforms like Medium, whether it be all of the above, like social media, X, Facebook. I've always argued we as Freemasons should have a presence on everything. Um, and certainly, I think Freemasonry should have a presence on TikTok, even Red Note. I'm pretty active on Red Note. That's the Chinese app. And so, um, that being the case, I suppose in some ways I should be more active on TikTok, but in my opinion, I'll let others be active on TikTok. I'll let Brother Fluff carry that one, um, or be active therein. I'm going to stick to what I know. Even Twitch, actually, where I have an account and I try to be active on Twitch every so often. I may even do a Twitch stream tonight. I was thinking about just for fun, again, just to try something different. However, the issue with Twitch is it feels like um, you have to spend a lot of time there to develop an audience comparatively to some other platforms. I guess one platform I say I'd rather we not be active on is OF. I can't say the word on YouTube. YouTube doesn't like that word, or that platform. But maybe that one will stay off of just to be safe. Let's give it another 19 minutes and then we'll see thereabouts and we'll start talking. Well, you can make a full sentence with the verb. So, you know, I am, you are, he is, she is. The verb to be is kind of the basis on which I would say the English language is formed. I know when I was learning Latin, because in undergrad I took classical studies, which was ancient Greece and ancient Rome. And as part of that, I took Latin. And one of the very first things we had to do in Latin was learn the verb to be in Latin, and the Latin version of I am, the Latin version of you are, the Latin version of he is, etc., etc. I think if anybody wants to become a better English writer, especially, learn Latin. It helped me, even though I forget Latin now, I can never actually translate anything or speak it or anything to that extent. Certainly, my learning of Latin made me a better writer because you have to focus on things like, agreement between your verb and your tense, or your object, and you had to learn how to make all these different things agree. So it made me I think it helped my writing quite a bit. I think it still helps my writing to this day. We are giving it a bit more time. We're going to see who else joins. Please, if you are new, take a moment, hit the like and subscribe button. We're here chatting about Freemasonry. I mentioned before, I'll announce it again. We have some things coming up that are very exciting. September 19th, I'm going to start my stream at 8 a.m. and we're going to have a full day stream. I'm going to be taking part in Medium Day 2025. That's a day dedicated to writing on Medium. Why it's so important, or not, like how to write well in Medium, and I think that we as Freemasons can benefit from being better writers, certainly for our summonses, our communications, our written work. And so I'm going to be taking part in that, but I'll be live streaming the whole experience, going from 8 a.m. starting 8 a.m. Friday, September 19th, going through to 8 p.m. The 20th will be a stream on Instagram, and the 21st will be the 24-hour live stream starting at 2 p.m. Eastern. So please be subscribed, get the notifications, and stay informed for all of the above. And let's just wait to see who joins. We're just giving it a bit more time to see who joins. And like I said, about an hour in, Freemasonry and Freemasonry and the thing, Freemasonry and professional wrestling, Freemasonry and or lessons from professional wrestling that can apply to Freemasonry, not kayfabe, some other things. Leticia, well, I'm Canadian, so not American. Having said that, I don't know. I guess it would depend on how old you are as well. I wouldn't want. I mean, I think just watching it, because I don't know really how to learn other languages. It's not my forte. I would think almost any television show, though, if you are watching it with English, either dubbed or in the original English, you'll probably pick up some French, some English just by watching it. In the same way, I picked up some French by watching my favorite movies in French, both listening to the way they pronounced the words as well as just hearing the words they were using. And by the way, I will be 1 p.m. Or sorry, 1 a.m. this morning. I am going to do that. It's going to be a relatively short stream again. My 1 a.m. streams are usually much shorter. I don't know how much longer I'm going to keep doing the 1 a.m. streams because obviously for people in North America who have to work the next day, 1 a.m. streams, they're probably not going to be watching those unless they have different shifts or unless it's a weekend. But I'm not going to quite give up on them yet. Soon, maybe, I'll switch it to something else, but I want to try them again this week because I have found I've had a lot of success in the past with 1 a.m. streams. So I'm curious about keeping them going. I used to be the Queen's English, but now it's the King's English. Although I'm not sure that's the case. I think the King's. I don't think the King is a Geordie. It's funny. Yesterday, I was talking to somebody. He was from. He was actually from Newcastle. I know you're not exactly from Newcastle, but you got the bit of the Geordie accent in you, I suppose. And he wasn't actually. He was from Yorkshire originally. But to me, he sounded a bit like a Geordie, and he said, "Well, he lived in Newcastle the last several years." So, We're giving it a bit more time. We're just going to see who joins, as always. And as always, if you are just joining us, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, join the Patreon, etc., etc. Actually, I guess I can make that the poll question. I usually have a poll question of some sort. Since I'm going to be talking about it, I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to make this the poll question. You a fan of professional... Oops. There we go. We're going to start poll. I know it's a general question. A lot of people might be fans of professional wrestling from the 80s, but not from the 90s, or whatever it is. But just a very general idea. Are you a fan of professional wrestling? I'm not sure. I'm sure we could look it up. I'm sure there's a reason for it. Maybe they tell us online what the reason is, but I don't know either. So... we got one vote, one yes, so that's good. I can look that up. We'll give it a second. I'm curious now. Geordies, meaning Newcastle. The term's origins are linked to pro-King George sentiment in the early 18th century when Newcastle residents supported King George II against Scottish rebels. You can practice when you go to the United States. I mean, that makes sense to me. You can, I mean, any chance I guess you get to practice, though, is a good thing. Maybe it makes sense. You want to try to practice as much as you can. But I wish you best of luck. Like I said, anybody who can speak more than one language, you have my respect because, as I've said in the past, I speak English and bad English, and that's about it. So... do you have plans to go to the United States? Is that coming up, or are you just waiting? By the way, once again, it's awesome to know somebody from Brazil on the stream. As somebody who loved my visit to Brazil, I went to visit the Grand Lodge of the Grand Lodge of South America Northern Division, which is otherwise known as SAND, which I think is a cool acronym. Makes sense as well because makes a lot of sense too because there's a lot of sand in Rio de Janeiro anyways. A lot of beaches. Oops. I'm just trying to find, if I can actually find any Masonic events happening in Brazil coming up. It is DGL Sand. Oh, 90th anniversary of the Royal Arch in the district. That was on the 13th of September. So it's belated, but happy anniversary to the Royal Arch in the district. Consecration ceremony took place on September 12th. The June 14th event, which I attended and loved. So yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff happening. Like I said, let's give it another couple minutes. Then please take a moment to hit the like and subscribe button. I would truly appreciate it. I hope everybody's having a great day. And I hope everybody's looking forward to the start of a week. Even if you're suffering from a cold, I hope you're still having a great day nonetheless. I'm going to give it, like I said, I want to wait. I want to wait for the 1 hour in. Also for time stamps. One thing I think I need to work on is making sure that, like for these streams, I have specific times. So if I say we'll start talking about a specific topic in an hour, then that's when I start talking about it. That way, if people find the stream later and want to skip ahead and get to the part about, for example, professional wrestling and Freemasonry, they know where to skip to, as opposed to making them just kind of watch stuff they might not be interested in. All right, couple of minutes, then we'll get ourselves started. By the way, I will be back this evening as well, or this morning, or tomorrow morning, I guess technically 1 a.m. So excuse me. Okay, let's get started. And I guess on the main topic, Freemasonry and professional wrestling. First, this is not about professional wrestlers who have been Freemasons, although there have been a few. The most potentially famous one that I can think of is uh, oh my gosh, and I just Harley Race took me a second there. Harley Race, he was actually might as well get the info. He was a member of Hickory Hill Lodge number 211 in Eldon, Missouri. He was raised in May of 2000 and he served as the Lodge Tyler from 2001 to 2008. If you know what the Tyler is the person responsible for keeping out intruders from Freemasonry. So just imagine you're trying to break into a lodge meeting or intrude upon a lodge meeting, and Harley Race is the Tyler. That would be pretty terrifying. Um, uh, I would not want, because he was known as kind of an incredibly tough individual. I would not want to have to fight him to get to a lodge meeting. I don't even think he would need a sword to keep me out. I think he would just pile drive me and the rest would be history. So, but it's not about that or this idea of professionals who've been Freemasons. I know of a couple others, right? It's also not referencing kayfabe per se. Kayfabe is, there are different ways to describe it. For my purposes here, I'm just going to describe it as maintaining the illusion and maintaining the characters of Freemasonry, both within and outside the ring. You can define it different ways, but that's the way I'll define it. Rather, it's about, based on my experiences in professional wrestling and my experiences within Freemasonry, what one can take from the other, particularly what Freemasonry can take from professional wrestling. And I'm also saying this as someone who was trained in Can-Am Professional Wrestling School and Border City Wrestling starting in 2007. So it's been about, crazy to think, 8 years. And I did a podcast about this as well. So the first thing I would say, and this is something very important for all Freemasons, that you can learn through professional wrestling just by watching it or even training in it, is the difference between executing something and performing something, right? So one thing I've noticed very often about newer Masons, especially, is when they have a piece of memory work to perform, when they have a piece of memory work to perform either as they're going through the degrees or as part of a degree to somebody else, especially if they're uncomfortable with public speaking or uncomfortable with being in front of groups, one thing you see very, very often is a lot of nerves. And the way those nerves come out is they will perform the memory work in a very monotone way, and they will not add any emphasis to the work as they are saying it. They will simply say the next word and the next word and the next word until they need to breathe again, and then they will speak in a monotone form, except, and so they're so focused on saying the words correctly that there's no thought given to inflection. There's no thought given to even the way they necessarily move their arms or their body language. There's no thought. There's no thought given to what parts of the work that they're performing resonate with them and how they can communicate that resonance through, again, inflection, pauses, body language, through not just inflection per se, but through the volume at which they're speaking. Do they keep it volume all the same, monotone, or do they increase the volume or decrease the volume depending on the part that they're at? When they're having pauses, for how long do they pause? Are they just pausing to remember the next word, or are they pausing for dramatic effect? And it's the same thing in professional wrestling, in the sense that in professional wrestling, at first you're taught how to execute moves, whatever those moves may be, right? How to properly execute, um, how to properly execute a lockup, how to properly execute a body slam, how to properly execute a headlock, how to properly execute a hip toss, right? You're being taught how to properly execute those moves, as well as how to properly take those moves so that you are protecting yourself and you're protecting the person on the receiving end. But at a certain point, even once you know how to properly execute the moves, then it becomes how do you properly execute the moves um, while also doing so in a way that conveys your character, that conveys the type of wrestler you are, the type of wrestler that you want to be, right? The type of wrestler that you're trying to convey to the audience, or the type of story you want to tell, right? It's the difference between, and this is something that somebody else told me as a professional wrestler, and it was a really good piece of advice. At the start, it's about executing the moves, but at a certain point, it becomes about performing the moves, right? And performing the moves is incredibly important because, again, it's not just doing the moves correctly. You're trying to convey through the moves that you're doing, you're trying to convey a story. You're trying to tell a story. The story could be the story of the match itself, or it could be the story of the character that you're portraying as a professional wrestler. But either way, it's about telling a story. And performing the moves is about executing the moves correctly and telling that story. And if you think about it in terms of our memory work, it's the same thing as a Freemason. It's not just about getting the words correct. It's not just about getting the words done properly. The words mean something, and they mean something both to you as an individual Mason as well as in a general sense, but the words may have special meaning to you. And one of your responsibilities as a Freemason and as somebody portraying the words or performing ritual is, can you convey the ritual, perform the ritual in such a way that you're not just getting the words technically correct, but the words are also, you are also telling a story with those words, whether it be, again, when you choose to take a pause, when you choose to speak in a louder voice or in a quieter voice, the inflections that you choose to give them, the body language that you have while you are performing the ritual. All of those things tell a story. All of those things convey to the person hearing the ritual, convey things to that person as to how they understand what is being said to them and how they understand what is being spoken to them, right? And we as Freemasons need to be cognizant of that. And the way that you get to the point where you're not simply executing Masonic ritual, but you are performing Masonic ritual is, first and foremost, you need to practice. You need to practice over and over and over and over and over again in order to first just have the words right, because you're not able to perform the ritual if you can't at first execute it appropriately. So practice, 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 practice. Then you need to be willing to sit with the words, right? Think about them. Don't just learn them, but learn what the words mean, especially if there's some words in there you don't know what they mean. Maybe it's older English. Take some time to learn what those words mean. Like, go back and look at the definitions, get a dictionary, right? Once you're there, then the next step is to really sit with those words for a time and think about what they mean to you. And that's something that really is what they mean to you. So what you need to do is take a few moments to think, okay, as I'm performing this ritual, as I'm reciting this ritual, Are there certain words, are there certain segments that stick out to me, that really speak to me in some way, that make me feel a certain way? Something I love about this section, right? And once you can kind of do those things, then um, then what you can do is um, combine it all together, right? So now you know the words, you can execute it well. You've looked up any words you don't know what they mean in order to understand what they mean, and you've maybe even asked a Mason, um, what does this word mean? What does this section mean? Right? You've sat with it and you've thought about it, and you've thought about which parts of the ritual, which parts of this particular piece of ritual mean something to you, speak to you in a certain way. And then what you can even do is start to consider, okay, what might be a good place to put a pause in? What might be a good place to change my body language? What might be a good place to speak a little bit quieter, to force the candidate to listen more closely, and to imply that this really needs to be, you really need to think about this, versus what's the part where I can speak louder so I can express the ritual not just to the person receiving it, but to the whole lodge as to why this is important, right? So in the same way with professional wrestling, you get to a point where it's not simply about executing the moves, but rather it's about performing the moves to convey character, to convey story. Within Freemasonry, you get to a point where it's not simply about um, executing the ritual, it's about performing the ritual in a way to convey what matters to you about it, to convey the story of the ritual, to convey what's important within the ritual, and to convey what you hope you and others will learn from the ritual. And so that's a professional wrestling lesson that I think is very applicable to Freemasonry. The other thing I think that is very important within professional wrestling that can be applied to Freemasonry is the importance of breath. One thing you learn very early on in professional wrestling is if you have to have a match, if you have to have a match of any sort, your ability to control your breath so as not to get blown up is incredibly important. If you are breathing, if you are breathing heavy right away, if you're not aware of your breath or how to control your breath, and you have to, let's say, have a 20, even a 10, even a 5 minute match, and you don't have control of your breathing, you are going to get very tired very quickly. Blown up is the term. And also just being nervous about performing in front of people, traveling to the ring, whatever it might be, that is going to make you very nervous. And it could increase your breath or affect your breath rate. With Freemasonry, and I mentioned this a little bit in the past, or in the stream, I should say, one thing you'll notice is as somebody's performing ritual, and this could also be even a worshipful master, or even someone who has to give a speech of some sort, what you'll see is, again, in the middle of their ritual, as they're talking, they'll stop, take a big breath, and keep going. And the reason is they got so nervous performing the ritual that they forgot to breathe, right? And sooner or later, your body's going to make you breathe, but they forgot during the ritual, and they had to take a pause, take a big breath. It became very obvious what was happening. Either because it could be because they're nervous, because there's a lot of people watching them perform the ritual. It could be a worshipful master. It's his first time running a meeting. It could be any number of reasons, right? And so one of the tricks you learn in professional wrestling is the value of breath, the value of understanding your breath, the value of knowing your breath. You get that through exercise often. Exercise kind of forces you to be aware of your breath and learn how to breathe properly. Yoga, one of the reasons I talk about yoga a lot is because um, it forces you to learn how to breathe. You're always being taught, at least in the yoga I go to, core power, breathe in, breathing out as you're performing certain movements. So it makes you really aware of your breath. And that really came in handy for me in in my work in Freemasonry because it forced me to very often think about the nature of my breathing and to think about, okay, making sure that when I'm running a meeting, when I'm performing ritual, I'm paying attention to my breath, to what my breath is, to how it's going. I'm not at any risk of just passing out or anything like that at any given moment or needing to stop to take a breath. It really comes in handy, right? So pay attention to your breath. Um, Take yoga, do breathing exercises. Another way that you maintain your breath is just by practice. The more you practice your ritual, the more likely your breath is going to stay with you. Because oftentimes we lose our breath when we get nervous, when we get afraid, when we get scared, when we start to mess up. If you practice enough and you're comfortable, you're likely going to maintain your breath, even in the challenging times. So keep that in mind. Um, the the third thing that professional wrestling teaches that I think Masons need to remember is the value of being present. Um, and this, again, you see this primarily within Masonic ritual. At least I've seen this primarily in Masonic ritual. However, um, I've also seen this in Masons running meetings, um, as well as in some cases, Masons organizing events or running events, which is, so I'll give one specific example of the value of being present and what I mean by that, and then how it applies to professional wrestling, and then how it can apply to Freemasonry. In professional wrestling, right, you have to be aware not just of what's happening with you and what you're doing. You have to be present to see what's happening with other people. Certainly your opponent, the referee, if it's televised, the camera operators, whatever it might be. So for example, if, heavens forbid, knock on wood, your opponent gets injured, you need to be aware that your opponent was injured. You need to be present and know what's going on. Right? You need to be present to where the cameras are located to get the right shot for the cameras. You need to be aware of how the crowd is reacting if you need to make any type of last minute or make any kind of adjustments, right? You need to be aware of what's happening. And again, because maybe you got to the point where you're able to not just execute the moves correctly, but you're able to perform the moves. Maybe you've got to the point where you've got your breathing under control, but maybe you're so focused on what's happening with you and in performing the moves, in breathing well, you're not paying attention to what's happening within the ring around you. You're not paying attention to what's happening with other people. You're not paying attention to the bigger areas, to the larger picture. And that's where it's potential for injury. That's where it's potential for missing the shot. That's where a lot of things can go wrong. Within Freemasonry, I've seen so often Masons not being present, that they're missing out on the value of Freemasonry. So that, and I'll talk about what I mean in a second, somebody could professionally be put at risk. So what I mean by that is, for the former, not getting most of the Freemasonry, and even I have this problem and I need to work on it. You've been to so many meetings, you've been to so many rituals, you've been to so many degrees that somebody's giving a presentation, somebody's opening lodge or closing lodge, you've seen it 1,000 times. It's easy to zone out and you're no longer present. You're body is there physically, but mentally you're thinking about what you have to get for dinner or your laundry or anything that might be happening kind of within your life in that moment. Everything except what's happening in the lodge in front of you. Or I've also, and what happens then is somebody could be doing something really interesting. They could be performing ritual again in a slightly different way, emphasizing different words. They could be giving an excellent Masonic education piece. They could be um, talking about something that's really exciting that's going to be coming up in the future. But if you're not present for it mentally, you're missing out on what Freemasonry has to offer. And then on the other side of it, and this is a story I've told in the past, I was once watching a Masonic ritual take place. It was a first degree, and the worshipful master was portraying or giving to the candidate his obligation in the first degree. And in the obligation in the first degree, there's part of it where you have to kneel down. And the gentleman receiving the obligation was an older fellow, and you could tell it was really hard for him to kneel, to be in that position, because he was older, knees don't work, whatever it is, right? And normally in that situation, what would happen is the worshipful master would recognize that the person was struggling and would have him stand up, would have him sit in a chair, would do whatever he could do to make him comfortable during that time, because his comfort is the most important thing, right? However, this worshipful master was so focused on getting the words out that he needed to get out and getting the words out in the correct order, and getting his ritual done, that I swear, even though he was maybe a foot and a half away from the candidate, he had no idea the candidate was struggling. He had no idea that the candidate was struggling to be in that position because he just was so in his own head. He wasn't present in the moment. He was in his mind getting the words out. It got to the point where I would have done it probably pretty soon after, but another brother who had the wherewithal, to his credit, just got up and stopped the worshipful master for a moment and got a chair for the brother to sit in for the rest of the ritual. Because ultimately, it wasn't helpful to anybody. Certainly the candidate wasn't understanding the obligation, because you could tell it was a struggle for him to be in that position. So he wasn't getting anything. All the rest of us were nervous because we could see, it was physically difficult for this candidate, and we didn't want that. And the worship master just wasn't aware of what was going on because he was so in his mind. One thing professional wrestling teaches you is, even in times of stress, even in times you have to remember a lot of stuff, even in times when you're nervous, you still need to be present. You need to know what's going on, especially if you're a leader in a lodge, a worshipful master. You need to be aware of what's happening, and you need to be present, and be able and willing to make changes on the fly. And so in that case, I think that's another thing that professional wrestling teaches you, that Freemasons can benefit from. And as Dad says, and he's not wrong, zoning out does happen occasionally. It happens occasionally to me. It happens occasionally to everybody. Being asked a question can bring you to your senses. It absolutely can. For me, the key idea is, and that's why I've talked a lot in the past about, mindfulness. I've even had podcasts that was about mindfulness. And mindfulness, one of the tricks about mindfulness is it keeps you from zoning out, because it's a way to bring before you're asked a question, a way to bring you back to your senses, a way to bring you back to the present, through techniques of breathing exercises, refocusing techniques, journaling, right? If you have a Masonic journal, then what that means is when you go into lodge, you're more likely to pay attention because you know you have to write some stuff down in your journal after the fact. So there's a lot of different techniques. Or hey, go to professional wrestling school if you're younger. You'll pick up some of those skills, right? I think we as Freemasons, we never want to get kind of high on our horses and start thinking that we know everything. Rather, we should be humble enough and willing, and we should be humble enough to recognize that other professions, other skills have themselves techniques and abilities and philosophies and knowledge that can be applied to Freemasonry, and we should be willing to use it. It's kind of like archaeology. When it comes to archaeology, right, all of their tools are not archaeological specific. They're tools that came from dentistry, they're tools that came from gardening, they're tools that came from excavation that archaeologists adapted for their needs. In the same way, we as Freemasons should not be afraid to adapt tools from other professions and apply them to ourselves. I hope that that made sense. Let me know if it did or if it didn't, and if there's anything you would like to add. And with that, let's give it a bit of time and let's see who joins. Anything you want to talk about when it comes to Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral, I'd love to hear it. Let me know if you agree with me or disagree with me, or if you have different thoughts on maybe you don't agree with some of the things I said. If so, or if you don't, I'd love to know why. Because certainly it is the case that I do not know everything. I wish I did. I believe I do, but the truth is I definitely do not. So I'll see what you guys have to say. And if anybody has anything they want to talk about, please let me know. By the way, I'm going to be doing some poll questions about this soon. So always pay attention to my, well, I mean, you can do what you want, but I would encourage everybody to pay attention to my YouTube channel where, you know, in the community tab, I do post a lot of topics, a lot of poll questions, see how much you guys are paying attention, all that jazz. So please do so. Well, people are busy. I mean, I know somebody in the stream is ill, so maybe they're taking a nap. Um, and, you know, at this point, we're back to the anything you want to talk about phase. So let's see what people have to say. Yes, Mr. Keeps, I agree with you 100%. Um, it, I don't disagree with you on that. That is an issue. I would say, for me personally, especially one thing that really does bother me quite a bit is actually not so much tourists taking pictures with their, like, if the camera's facing away from them and they're taking a picture of something, that's one thing. Selfies kind of drive me crazy Because to me, it's like whatever you're taking a picture of um, should be beautiful enough. You don't need to put yourself in it, right? We all believe you were there if you're thinking about social media. Adding a selfie, I don't know. I just don't get to me, it does not seem beneficial. Like it seems like you have this, like I used to have this joke back when I did stand-up comedy every now and then. Is that you got this beautiful thing like right? You've got this beautiful thing like the Grand Canyon, let's say, that took millions of years to develop. It's got this vast extent. It's just vast in size. It's vast in scale. It's vast in its kind of magnitude. And in the process of all that, you have these tourists thinking to themselves, um, I need to be in this picture. That's what this thing needs. It's like, no. You should be able to enjoy something without you physically being in the picture, right? To know you were there. In my oh so humble opinion. So that's kind of my view on that. But you're not wrong about either sense, right? Like even in Freemasonry, how dangerous, how often is it that we will go to visit a beautiful Masonic building, and it'll be so interested in taking pictures of it, we forget to actually just enjoy being in the building because we're so focused on getting the perfect shot. But if you're not, like you said, and if you're not present just in your day-to-day life, that's when bad things can happen. Even something as simple as not paying attention while you're walking down the street, not noticing cars coming, not to, not to get to final destination on us, but how many people get injured because they're not focusing on what's right in front of you, um, but you have your head down on your phone or you're not present in the moment. What's happening, Christopher? Good to have you join. I hope you're doing well. Hope you hit the like button. What is new and exciting in your life? Just hanging out. I had a great stream on Friday, or on Sunday last night. By the way, don't forget about what I have coming up. I have a stream on Friday that's going to be 8 a.m., going to be all day. I have a stream on Saturday on my Instagram account. Please follow me on Instagram. And I have a stream on Sunday starting at 2 p.m. Eastern. That's going to be my next 24-hour stream. So that should be a lot of fun as well. But for now, we're just giving it a bit of time. We're going to see who else joins. As always, I have my main discussion point, which was things that Freemasons can learn when it comes to professional wrestling, or lessons we can take from the latter and apply to the former. And now it's just hanging out to see who joins. I do have a lot of work happening this week, so you can expect to see. I'm going to try to keep my same schedule, but expect to see things kind of changing as I go as well. Anytime I have a change in the typical 1 p.m. or 1 a.m. stream, I try to make sure I announce it so people are aware of it. Well, call them errands then, things I have to do to. And there's work involved in this, by the way. Like I have to print out I have a bunch of Masonic stuff to get ready because I have an official visit coming up October 1st. Um, Official visit is like a meeting where your Masonic administration reports on the competency of your lodge, both in terms of its ritual work and its um, not business, but its administrative abilities. So I have to prepare all the paperwork for that. There's a bunch of reports I have to file. I have to um, actually get some Masonic items appraised, not so much because I plan to sell them, but rather just because I want the record of how much they're worth, and a written record of what they are and how they look. Again, I've talked about that a million times in the past. Part of it is for insurance purposes. Part of it is if heaven forbid they ever get stolen. I've got a document I can give to the police that describes them in detail, both not just what they're worth, but also how they look, distinguishing features, pictures of them, so that they can be sent to pawn shops if they ever try to get pawned. I have to do that, which I've been putting off for a while. I have to take care of some medical stuff. So call them errands if you will, but there's always something to do. I have a whole binder of work I need to get ready for October 1st as well, so. Well, you could also say life is work, right? If you're doing it right, life is work. You should be working. It shouldn't be simple to, I mean, life should be not just about being alive and breathing, but it should be about working to build a better community, however it is that that may look. And I consider Freemasonry my work as well. No, no, I don't think you're accusing me. I get it. I got the question. Um, Unfortunately, though, I think isn't there like a religious expression too, like life is work or something? I think I heard that somewhere. But we all work in some way, shape, or form, or at least I hope we do. But sometimes what that means is there's differences, or there's like I said, I might have to change my live stream schedule. Although, as a general rule, I will always try to keep my live stream schedule consistent at 1 p.m. and for now 1 a.m. Though again, that may be changing in future. How's it going, CD? I hope you're going well. Thank you for being here. Yeah, it's been a while. By the way, CD, I don't know if you saw what I have coming up. I have a other than the normal. I have a Friday stream starting at 8 a.m. I have a Saturday stream on my Instagram starting at 3 p.m. And then I have a Sunday, September 21st stream starting at 2 p.m. That's going to go 24 hours. It's going to go until my birthday on the 22nd at 2 p.m. And I'll be giving away free Tier 1 Patreon memberships. So every 2 hours in honor of my birthday. I'm turning 25 years old. But CD, let me know how your day's going. Thank you. Not quite yet, September 22nd. So I guess 1 week as of today. I just realized that. And then, like I said, 25, maybe 26. We can put it up to 26, but that's as old as I'm willing to be. Thank you. See, why can't the stream be more like CD, right? He can see how young and handsome I am. Why can't the rest of you? But we're back just hanging out, chilling. I talked about today lessons that Freemasons can take from professional wrestling, the value of being able to not simply execute ritual or recite ritual, but actually perform ritual, what performing ritual means, and how to get to that point where you can perform it, the value of breath, not just in Freemasonry, but in life, but how we can control and be aware of our breathing so we're not, again, performing ritual or even performing meetings and holding our breath, which blows us up, gets us more tired, and makes the ritual harder to perform, as well as the meetings harder to manage. And the necessity of being present and in the moment and not allowing ourselves to either zone out or not be aware of what's happening right around us. Goodbye, Dad. Thank you for joining. I truly appreciate it as always. I will probably see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. once again. And I love you. Thank you for being here. But in the meantime, like I said, we're just back at the hangout phase. So let's see what people want to talk about. BIU, I'm going to say BIU is back. Welcome back. I hope you're doing well. I know nothing about Taiwan and China um, outside of the fact that there's Freemasonry in Macau and Hong Kong. It's something I know very little about. I cannot speak Chinese. I do not remember when Macho Man prevented the rapture, but I mean, if anybody could, it would be Macho Man because he's one of the greats. I mean, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because I don't know how people feel about the rapture. I don't understand it from a religious perspective. Because I understand the rapture is when, like, isn't the rapture the end of the world? Uh, but if anybody could prevent the rapture, it would be Macho Man because he's truly was one of the greats without question. Welcome back, Pennywise. How is it going for you today? Ni hao is hello? Okay, I did not know that, so that's cool. I learned something new today. That's one of the things I love about these streams is ni hao means hello. I love learning new things, and so that's a cool thing. If I ever make my way to if I ever make my way um, to China or Hong Kong, which I really want to visit, I'll have a new word. Okay, I mean, I personally would not want to elbow drop Jesus. Um, I would be very worried if that were to happen. I'm not even saying necessarily believe. Well, I believe in Jesus as a historical figure. I'm nearly positive he existed, as positive I think as you can be about these historical things. I'm not so, like I said, I don't know if I believe in the supernatural elements per se. Having said that, if I found out I was wrong, I would not want to elbow drop him. I'd be very concerned about doing that. But Macho Man could get away with it. And as Mr. Keep says, and I like that attitude, if it's all in good jest, then it's all in good jest. I mean, I kind of view the same thing about some Masonic memes that are out there. There are some that I take some issues with when they seem like they're attacking us, cruelly, but there are a lot of memes that make fun of Freemasonry, and I've never had any problem with that. Um, I'd rather, like I said, I take it all in good jest. Even movies like From Hell, where Freemasons are portrayed as the bad guys. Well, again, where a Freemason is portrayed as the bad guy, and Freemasons in general, I don't view them as the villains per se of that movie, but the mysterious quote unquote occult aspects are played up. I still view it as entertainment, as as all in good fun, all in good jest. Um, well, I mean, I appreciate that, Mr. Keeps. Maybe he will. I mean, my issue with religion as a general rule, it's not particularly to one faith group. So I have no issue with Catholicism versus Protestantism versus the Muslim faith versus the Jewish faith, right? It's the acceptance of it's acceptance of anything that, I guess miracles would be the term, anything that would go against the natural laws, or the laws that govern the universe. So that's what I mean. Again, I guess in some ways you could call me Jeffersonian, because Thomas Jefferson famously wrote a Bible, but he removed all the miracles or all the supernatural elements um, within it. I'm curious how long it was. Jeffersonian Bible, when he actually wrote it. I'm curious. So it's formally titled The Life and Morals of Jesus of Nazareth. Thomas Jefferson's compilation of Jesus' teachings, created by cutting and pasting sections from the canonical Gospels to remove supernatural events and focused on the moral philosophy of Christ, inspired by Enlightenment era deism. Jefferson sought to present a purified version of Christianity, omitting miracles and divine elements to highlight Jesus' ethical teachings and what was viewed as its foundation in natural religion. I'd be curious to actually read this book. I never actually read it. But I do appreciate the Enlightenment era kind of, what's the word? The Enlightenment perspective, which seems to pervade that idea. But I guess we should all be happy that Macho Man went up there and prevented the rapture, because if he didn't, I'd probably be in a lot of trouble. I'm about to sneeze. Maybe not. Maybe. Sue. Maybe one more time. Sue. Thank you, Spirit. How's it going? Sue. Mr. Keeps, if you manage to give me your cold through the phone, through YouTube, I will remember this. Phew. Thank you for that as well. I'm going to sneeze again. This is like the fifth sneeze. I'm going to need to get some tissue. Actually, hold on one moment. I need some tissue. I'll be right back as I keep sneezing. Phew. All right, I'm back. I'm blaming Mr. Keeps. So everybody can blame Mr. Keeps for giving me this cold. He sneezed on his phone, and then the algorithm sent it to me. So boo to Mr. Keeps. I'm just kidding. I still love you, Mr. Keeps, especially because you were kind enough to send me that package once again. Very, very much appreciated. And truly lucky to have fans such as yourself, as well as everybody who, in a variety of ways, liking, subscribing, commenting, whatever it might be. It's a pleasure to have you on the stream as well. By the way, congratulations to, I just found out about this, the Glenview. Oh no, it helps me very much. It absolutely helps me very much. And it makes me much more comfortable. So very much appreciated. Yes, congratulations to the Glenview History Center. So as many people on this stream know, I love Glenview, Illinois, as well as Chicago. Glenview is about 40 minutes north of Chicago, 40 minutes by the Metro station. If you drive there, maybe 30 minutes. So it's like a northern village, northern suburb almost of Chicago. My history with that, I'm not going to, chew my food twice, but it's basically a town or village I really love. I've got a ton of friends there. I visit it very frequently. When I was there a few months ago, I actually visited the Glenview History Center archives. At that time, the History Center Museum and even the archives were undergoing repairs and restorations and construction work. But their library and archives were still open, and I met with them, and I did some research about Freemasonry in Glenview from a historical perspective, famous Freemasons from the town, any records that they had pertaining to Freemasonry in Glenview. They were kind enough, the staff there and the volunteers, to gather the information for me so I could take a look at it. I posted a bunch of pictures of it on my social media channels. But anyways, the restoration and construction work is now finished. The museum and the History Center are celebrating a grand reopening September 20th, 1121 Waukegan Road. So if you get the chance, if you live in Glenview or in and around it, and you want to check out the Glenview History Center Museum, September 20th, 11 a.m. You should check it out. It's a really cool place, really cool staff. And thank you to them for giving me a bunch of information on Freemasonry in Glenview. One thing we as Freemasons should be doing is forming better relationships with local history centers. Local history centers would really love, in my experience, to form relationships with Masonic buildings and Freemasons and Masonic lodges in their towns. The reason being, usually Freemasonry will have been around for 100, who knows, 200 years, it will have records and information pertaining to people within the town, the lodge itself, and the town itself going back 200 years. For example, one thing a few years ago, I was going through the records of the records of members of my Masonic lodge that dated back to the formation of the Masonic Lodge in 1883. And what you saw was you had this list of members, their names, their addresses, their occupation, how much they paid, if they had anything owing, and their address. And whether their address was in Windsor, as it was in 1883, or in another town that had yet to be amalgamated within Windsor. The point is that genealogical and census type of information would be incredibly interesting to a historical society who wants to learn about the types of occupations that were most prevalent at different points in the history of the town, the income levels of the town at that time, how many people lived in the town versus lived in suburbs that later became part of the town or village, right? Oftentimes, as Masonic lodges built or moved to new buildings and left old buildings, the information about those buildings is preserved in Masonic records. Information about events that the lodges put on that focused on Masonic there's so much information that Masonic lodges are privy to or are storing that would be of great value to a historical center, and vice versa. These historical centers often have within their records and archives information about Freemasonry, information about members who were Freemasons. For example, when I was in the Glenview History Center, one thing they showed me was information about a Freemason from Glenview by the name Dews, Dewes, who apparently was incredibly important to the town in a lot of different ways. And then sure enough, as I was wheeling away, a few blocks over, I spotted a street sign, and the street was named Dews, Dews. And certainly that's an indication of that family and that name being important to Freemasonry and the town, and there being a connection. Sure, the minutes as well, right? And obviously there are kind of certain types of administrative and even legal hurdles you need to get by before you share minutes with somebody doing research. The usual rule is 100 years, right? Anything older than 100 years is usually fair game for historical research. Anything less than 100 years old, you need to get permission from different groups and bodies, including, for example, your Grand Lodge. But at least if, let's say a historian is doing a paper on, so let's say a historian wants to write a paper about the relationship between Canadian and American Freemasons in Windsor, Ontario, right? Well, one thing that would be very valuable for them is a copy of our minutes from the week or the month in which Franklin Delano Roosevelt passed away, because a lot of Canadian Masonic lodges and Masonic lodges in Windsor included within their minutes a mention of holding a moment of silence for FDR, paying a tribute for FDR, because he was a Freemason as a leader of the States. He was also, involved in World War II, which obviously Canadian soldiers were fighting in as well. But he was a Freemason, and the minutes reference the fact that we in Canada and in Windsor paid tribute to the passing of this American brother. Right now, obviously, to get those minutes, you'd have to talk to the lodge, talk to Grand Lodge, get dispensations, but it'd still be incredibly valuable to know, right? So I think we as Freemasons need to be forming more relationships with our local historical societies. I'm proud of the efforts I've made to do that in a few locations. And congratulations to Glenview History Center Museum Open House, Saturday, September 20th for the reopening. It can be tough. You'd have to talk to his lodge, right? You'd have to contact Indiana and talk to his lodge, or contact the Grand Lodge and proceed from there. If he's 32nd or 32nd, you'd also have to talk to the Scottish Rite jurisdiction. I believe Indiana's northern jurisdiction. I could be mistaken, but talk to the kind of Scottish Rite Valley that is where he would have lived, and kind of go from there. He could have been. It's not necessary. It's not necessarily the case, but he could have been. You'd have to check with either Prince Hall Grand Lodge in Indiana or otherwise. But yeah, it's possible. Just getting a bit more time. Just going to see if anybody else jumps in the chat to say hello. As always, I'll be back on at 1 a.m. as well, so I'll see what people want to talk about then. I've mentioned everything. Yeah, I mean, I don't have it off the top of my head. A Google search will help. If you do run into any trouble, let me know, and I'll see if I can at least find something to help you. At least make some initial contact. I'm trying to think off the top of my head if I have any Masonic brothers that I know of in Indiana. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but that doesn't mean they're not there. So, like I said, let me know if you need any help, and I'll do my best. Maybe contact them as a brother myself. Maybe that will help you a little bit get things started. Not saying that. What's the word? Not saying that it's always necessary, and hopefully they'll recognize that as somebody who had a grandfather or great grandfather, that should be enough. But I'll try to help you. You know my email address, right? If you don't, info@squareandcompass.ca. And also, make sure that if you do want to just send me an email anyways, please do. I'll put you on my email list if you're not on it already. No worries. I've done that in the past, actually. I've helped out people locally who've contacted me and asked me, about a family member, usually a grandfather who was a Freemason. Sometimes I've been able to help get information, sometimes not, but I still kind of try my best. And no worries, Spirit. We're going to give it a bit more time. Like I said, just going to see who else joins. We're really at the stage now where we're just hanging out, seeing what people want to talk about. There's nothing in particular, so anything you want to talk about, let me know. And I will do my best to to respond. And we're going to give it another, let's say, 5 minutes. If you're not hit the subscribe or the like button yet, please do. We're 1 like away from 10 likes, so hey, we can get to double-digit likes. That's always nice. Give it, let's say, 3 more minutes. Oh, life expectancy in Canada rises. That's a bit of good news. I know it went down in the States. I don't know if it's gone back up in the coming days. Canada's latest life expectancy numbers suggest people are living slightly longer again, but the trend may not be as reassuring as I'll have to read this. So it's 81.7 years as of 2023. I guess these statistics are a couple of years to accumulate. I mean, I'll take 81.3 years. Or 81.7, I think it was. Seems like a decent length to me. For life expectancy? Or that makes sense. I could see that as mattering a lot for life expectancy, how good your air is indoors. Getting a lot of sleep, that's important as well. I agree. I've actually watched a few podcasts with people talking about the value of sleep. And how we in a society are not getting enough sleep as general, or not encouraging enough sleep, which I would agree with as well. And it's funny because those are the two things I'm the worst at. I don't get enough sleep, and I've never checked my indoor air quality, but both I'd imagine would be incredibly important. How do you check your indoor air quality? Is there a tool to check? I'm curious what the best way to check is. I could look it up, I suppose. Amazon air quality advice. I mean, I've become very good at like surviving with little sleep, but it's not a healthy thing, admittedly. So I don't. This is another one of those do as I say, not as I do situations of be more focused on your sleep than I am. Okay, I'll check it out. I think it's genetic. Genetics, I'm sure, play a part of it. I have no doubt that genetics play a pretty big role in this. I would not doubt it at all. I'm sure it does. Like I said, I'm sure we got our 2 likes. I'm sure it assists greatly with, I mean, and it's probably something that Masonic temples could, I'm sure, I mean, almost any place where the public gathers or members gather, right? Or just large groups of people gather, having heat exchangers or air exchangers, thermal pumps, checking air quality, signing up for Alexa, all that stuff can matter a great deal, I've no doubt. So it's probably worth exploring in a Masonic context. But all right, guys, I think we'll end this stream. I'll be back tomorrow. I do have a few ideas for topics for tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed today's. I hope that it maybe gave you some ideas. Spirit, like I said, if you have any struggles or troubles finding info about your grandfather, or was it great grandfather? I'm sorry, I forget, but just get in touch with me by email. I'll do what I can. No promises, but I'll try to help. And I'll see you all very soon. And Mr. Keeps, have a good one as well. Get yourself some rest. Drink lots of water. We're all hoping you feel better. All right, talk to you later.